Good morning friends, I am back again. This subject of journal land register, which has already been spoken in my last 3-4 videos, I will continue this and I will talk of the same subject. So let's rebrush very quickly. I will show you the journal land registers, this tract as well as the full volume which was being maintained under the 1937. Friends, let's talk very straight today. The British, while making these rules and laws, very smartly twisted the use of English language and wrote in black and white in these rules itself, if anyone is able to prove to the cantonment magistrate that he is holding under the Registration Act or the Cantonment Act under section 10 of 1864, its sale document, it would be written a freehold property. I had already explained you in Rule 6 in 1925, very clearly they had said in subpara 4 that they were private estates within the cantonment boundary pillars. So when all this was happening, so one thing is very clear, there were private properties. And which are those private properties? Nobody knows. So let's go under a presumption that we are not a private property. This is what we've been hackled for the last good 70-80 years. I'll ask what I had said in Schedule 1 and Schedule 3. If you remember when I was reading 1925 CLA rules, Rule 3, that the GLR has to be maintained under Schedule 1. There was another register which is called the grant register, or would be a similar property register maintained by the cantonment magistrate. Now I'll show you of both these pages of CLA rules 1925, page number 46-47 and page number 52-53, which you will see on your screen. Now this appendix 3 very clearly said the cantonment authority will be maintaining a land register subsisting of some 11 columns. The GLR speaks of 13 columns. So there was an increase and decrease of, let's say, 2 columns this side or that side. See the snap very carefully, go back to it, see the survey numbers, then the area, either of the two, less and above half an acre, description and number and dates of author, of authorization of occupation and authority by whom ordered. The lease document would speak on that, the rent would speak, similarly, whom to be paid, date of collection also speaks a similar column. Nowhere this Schedule 3 land register talks of class, landlord, managed by, whether I am an HOR, holder of occupancy rights. Why? Why doesn't it speak of all this? And why does the Schedule 1 speaks of all this? This is where the twist of the arm started. Now if you see, I'll show and I'll request Mr. Vijay, show your GLR maintained by one of the cantonment magistrate from Landor. This GLR similarly is holding 14 columns, not 13. Same subsidiary, area above in square feet, given a separate number, description, class, managed by, landlords, holder of occupancy rights, nature of holder's right, rent payable was then subdivided into different parts of a private owner, central government, cantonment magistrate. This private owner is to be understood very clearly. Why rent was payable to a private owner? Was this a private property, a private estate, or was it a private grant? Then same date of expiry of lease and the remark column finally. This GLR was prepared by the cantonment magistrate, has 14 columns. This doesn't match what Schedule 1 as per Rule 3 of the 1925 says the GLR should be, which is holding 13 columns. Just imagine so many discrepancies, 13, 14, 12, 14, somewhere 11, somewhere 13. Everywhere there was something missing, something added. Just trying to create a cobweb for people. And we as native Indians were very naive to the British. So this GLR was absolutely a document which was fictitious, defunct, purged. Could not have been a bigger fraudulent document than this on earth. I'll ask you to, my photographer, to add a GLR extract now issued by Ambala Cantonment Magistrate, maintained by him in 1930, but issued in 1977. Now, this is of a bungalow which has already been under assumption. Now, just see what this GLR speaks. I will not detail everything. It speaks in column 7, by whom managed, column 8, landlord. Similarly, column 10 speaks of nature of holder rights, and last 13, remarks. The CEO himself in column 7 speaks of cantonment authority. Why? And what does he do? He gives a cut and he writes MU. Column 8, he says disputed, then he writes Government of India. Column 10, again he says disputed, but he doesn't know what to write here. So he simply writes no terms of grant available. So isn't this proving that this GLR is an entirely tampered document? Not as per Rule 3.5, which was laid by the 1925 CLA rules. What are we doing? This GLR doesn't carry signatures of the MU. Every 4 year, 5th year, it had to be remade. Where are those GLRs? Nowhere these GLRs are available. Again, see a GLR prepared by Pune CEO, which speaks of something different. This is an extract. Try and gauge yourself what are the difference in these two GLRs. To the GLR which I showed you of 1977, or to the extract which I showed you in the earlier videos of mine. Read them. Let me see. I'm leaving it to you people. I'm not going to explain you these two GLRs now. This is a kind of a puzzle given to you, friends. And let's see how many people come up and say this is the difference in these GLRs, or the extract which you have shown in your video, Mr. Das. This is the evidence which needs to be brought in front of the courts. Once this is brought, it would be crystal clear for the judiciary to say whether this GLR is a purged document, a fraudulent document, or whether it needs to be upheld because it is a per se admissible document more than 30 years old. So this is again where we need to fight on. Now, friends, 1925 is over and we are coming to 1937 CLA rules. Again in Rule 3 here, the GLR was to be maintained by the CO or as Rule 2 DO. Rule 3 again speaks military state officers shall in person in the form prescribed in Schedule 1 maintain a journal land register in the cantonment inside bazaar area and outside bazaar area. Now just imagine, it is the MEO again who's holding both the GLRs, whether it is inside the bazaar area or outside the bazaar. So we people generally fancy inside the bazaar area is the civil area and outside the bazaar area is the bungalow area. Similarly, no additions to be done in the journal land register without the sanction of the central government. This register has to be maintained under the provisions of the CLA rules 10 and 45, which can be read further. How registers have to be maintained, subpart of this Rule 3 only. Register has to be divided in as many volumes as convenient, it says. Mutation register has to be maintained in subpara B. Mutation and entries. Every time there is a sale in columns, subpart, or I would say subpara C of the rule, says a survey number new has to be given. Similarly, I had said in earlier, that whether my grant is being allowed to subdivide it. Sanctions given by the central government have to be written. Every holding has to be spread under a large area. So separate numbers, roads, everything has to be mentioned. And all these documents have to be kept by the military engineering services or the PWD department of 1809. These were the departments which the British Army maintained, which is now called the military MES, engineering services. They are the holders of these plans of these bungalows or these cantonments. Where are these? Again, when we go to Rule 3, Subpara 1, it says private land should be given a survey number and the area entered in column 4, the entries in column 6, 7, 8, 9 and 10 will be private. Why? Why in 1937 also the British government or the British Army is admitting that within cantonments there were private properties? So subsequently, like what I just said, A, B, C, D, E, F, and this goes up till J, K, L, M, Rule 3. And there are sub-rule 3, 2. This is very important once again. What was there earlier? The custody of the journal land registers, the maps will be in personal control of the military state officer. He will make sure, safeguard all these documents, will not lose them whether by fire or any other reason, floods or anything. And there was a proper order of 23rd March 1938 by the Army Department that these documents have to be kept. So these documents have to be brought to the court. Friends, we shall continue this topic of GLR in my next session, and I will appreciate if I get questions. Now things would be more clearer to most of the people and would understand this GLR is nothing. Whether we are in bungalow area or we are in civil area, it is one GLR. Whether in 1925 or 1937, there is no difference. So please do not within ourselves discriminate that you are a bungalow area, I am a civil area, I have some better rights, you have some poor rights. We are all screwed under the GLR, which is the same for all of us. Thank you. Good day.